Hi everyone, it's Jason Carthew here, presenting a bit of a lesson in using Chromakey screen or green screen in Premiere. Now, the first thing you need to understand with using Chromakey is the use of the layers. So if you're looking here, there's video 1 layer, video 2 layer, video 3 layer. You can keep adding quite a few more layers if you need to, depending on the power of your computer as well. So the reason we need to consider these layers is using a chroma key and removing that background that you can see around me will reveal the layer underneath. So we need to set that layer first. And I'm going to drag this Creative Commons image I got into the timeline, and you'll see there it is. It's not quite big enough for the sequence settings, but I can fix that in a moment. It's going to be my background, and that's why it's on video 1. It may need to go a bit longer, so you can always click and drag the edge. If it's too small, I suggest you look down here on the slider and grab the handles at the end, and that allows you to zoom in and out on your timeline. So in this case, I'll just leave it there. I have my background, which has a green screen of its own, which could be useful in the future, but I'm not going to use that one. I'm using the one that I hung up on my gazebo outside using a chroma key fabric. Now, the next stage is to choose the segment of footage. You can see my daughter there just trying to get in on the action. Now, what we do there is I've double-clicked on the video, and that brings you up into the preview window. This preview window shows you what's in your bin, as it used to be called, but the project folder, and allows you to scrub through to find that moment you want to start. When you find that part that you want to start at, or the frame you want to start at, press I on the keyboard, and that creates an in point. Now I can drag quickly along, maybe just go to about there. Looks like I signed off, and press O on the keyboard, which is out, and what we do there is we actually clip the video into a short sequence. Now I can drag it down onto my timeline. Obviously I can't see the end of it at this point, so what we can do is drag that handle out again so it's in a workable length. Go to the background image and pull it out to meet the length of the video. The next step you need to do is here in your tabs, as you can see, your media browser, your project folder, you should have effects. It's in the effects that we will find video effects. Click on the little arrow to go down, keying, and the one we want to do is Ultrakey. Now, if you want to explore things, that's the best way, or you can simply type into the search engine there when you know what effect you want. I've typed Ultra, and you can see Ultrakey's popped up here. I then click and drag that over onto the video. Now you don't see anything yet. It is on it, but it doesn't know what color it's removing. To open up the properties controls or the effects controls, the best way of doing it is double clicking on the video, making sure that that's the one you're affecting, or whatever it is you're affecting in the timeline. Up here in the top tabs, you will see effect controls. So if you click along there, you'll find that there's a whole lot of basic effects which go with everything, but as you scroll down, you'll see Ultrakey. So what we need to do is grab this eyedropper, and the best color to pick, because this has got a few little ripples in it, is sort of a mid-green. And you can see it didn't do a bad job. However, I've got a bit of a problem. I'm huge and in the center, so if you remember our composition rules, it's the rule of thirds, and the image behind is too small. So the first thing I'm going to do is fix the image behind. To do that, I double click on the graphic layer, and you can see there it's a little bit small. Go to effect controls, and under the motion effects you'll see scale. I can click and drag that number upwards So I'm just clicking on those numbers and dragging to the right to set that background. The next thing I need to do is actually move myself. So if I double click on the footage of me again, I can scale it down. Maybe I'm just a little bit too big. Not too bad. It's probably more its position that's the issue. We can also change the position up and down if you need to get that rule of thirds. And because we're using green screen, it really doesn't matter where we position it now, because there's nothing else to refer to in the footage. I noticed there was a little bit of a speck here. You can crop this footage out as well if you need to, but in this case, it's not that bad. The other thing we can actually do is also look at our spill suppressions and cleanups. So you can start choking the green screen. So what the choke does is it pulls it tighter onto the colors. And I'll look at the matte generation, and you can lift the tolerance or lower the tolerance, but I find the pedestals probably the most effective one to move upwards. Now that little grey smudge, which I'm not sure if you can see, has now disappeared. We tend to have a nice crisp line around the person. So now there's me talking in a newsroom. The next thing I want to add though is another layer. Now I could put it into another green screen behind what you see there, but in this case I'm just going to drag it straight onto a layer above, because the only reason I put it into that green screen behind there is if I move across that imagery. But even then, it's not really a big problem. So I've copied in or dragged in a Photoshop exercise I did with my daughter, which is our hamster dial. She was told she needed to look at an animal that she could make up. So again, if I double click on that image in the preview browser, you can see it's a little bit too small, and it's also in the wrong position. Go to Effect Controls, just enlarge it a little bit. Now you can line it up with that screen, which is quite useful. In fact, I might make it just a bit bigger than the screen. And probably doesn't matter if I oops, it just wasn't letting me click on it there. So put it there at my shoulder. Now if that green screen really does bother me, I've got a couple of options. I can bring this back down into the television set there, and if I was in the live class I'd be asking, well, what could I add as a filter to that background there? And hopefully you'd go, well, we can put the Ultrakey into that as well. So I'm going to grab my Ultrakey and drag it onto that background. Get my eyedropper and click there, and now we've lost that green edge to my footage. So there's my report on the hamster dial, but maybe I want to cut across or go to my daughter in the next part of that scene. So what I've done is I've dragged her onto exactly the same layer. So you can see they're snapped in together. Again, we've got that problem of the size. So I'm going to bring that down and position. Put there as if she's reporting from somewhere. Again, we can go to our effects, Ultrakey, drop that in, get the eyedropper and remove it. So now there's footage of her. Now we can see that Ultrakey didn't work quite as well because there was a bit of wind blowing at that point in time. So just a reminder there, if you want to clean it up a bit, go to the pedestal, lift it up, and you can see now it's going completely black. Obviously I could put in another layer behind that to give her a proper background, but the reason I've shown you this is because we've got these two images in that screen, I can now apply a default transition. So to do that, you can either go to your transitions over in your effects panel, just got to delete Ultra, and pick something that's interesting. So maybe we'll do a flip over or a cube spin. See how that goes. Oh, they're too wide, so that's not going to work. Let's try a page peel. So it went right across the whole screen, so that's not going to work either. If we apply a default transition, it should be pretty much a fade out. So now what I've done is a little transition inside my video footage, as if I'm cutting across to my reporter on the scene. So there's a quick demonstration of what you can do with Chromakey and also what you can do in resizing your footage and positioning it. And I love the fact that you keep catching me on those moments. Now, one little happy accident that occurred, and I'll show you this, partly probably to amuse people, but also the fact that it shows another advantage of the green screen. So I'm going to delete me for the moment, leave that background there, and go to my media browser. Oh no, I think I've already downloaded it. I think that's it. No, that's not it. This is what's great about the scrub. I haven't got it there yet. That's okay, I know where it is. Yeah, there it is. I had that great moment of where I set it all up, started my news report, and of course it fell down. So to demonstrate how that can be a nice effect, if you know your Harry Potter movies and your screen of invisibility, or sorry, cloak of invisibility, I grab this footage, go to my effects again, and remember, if we type in Ultra, it would be the quickest way to get to it. Drag that onto it, double click on my footage, go to Effect Controls, pick up the eyedropper, choose that, and there we go, there's that magical cloak sort of effect. So if you walked around with that, you can use it to affect if you film the environment before you put the actor in putting the cloak on. So it's a little tricky thing that you can do. This was an accident, but I'm just demonstrating that it's one of the great things about that material there. And you can see that it's showing up a little bit, which again, if I go into my pedestal, I can pull it back quite a lot there. And see them doing a strange custom white to the background of my backyard. So hopefully you can utilize that, and you can use any color. In fact, that's what this eyedropper will pick up. So if you have a sheet or a piece of material that is an obvious different color to the person who's sitting in front of it, and it's lit well, you can use the Ultrakey on that color as well. And that's it for that demonstration.